Float like a butterfly, sting like a Texans cornerback Derek Stingley. Takeaways help Texans defeat the Miami Dolphins.
I'm back.
You are Locked On Texans, your daily podcast on the Houston Texans. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Battle Red Nation, welcome to the Monday edition of the Locked On Texans podcast. I'm Credential Media member Brian Big Sarge Bearfield, your Texans insider, along with Texans Credential Media member John Hickman. Hello, John.
Hey, how you doing? I'm so happy to be back.
Fantabulous. Thank you for making us your first listen of the day and for being an everyday on the show, which is part of the Locked On Network, your team every day. On today's show, we'll talk about the defense too much for Miami. Up and down day for the offense. Could have been better, but I did like what I seen, John, and we'll get into that. And the good and bad takeaways. Derek Stingley Jr. You see where I'm going with this, John?
Yeah, it's a lot of good. A lot of good from the defense.
The good and the bad takeaways from the game. But first, this show is sponsored by FanDuel. You can start the season with a big return on FanDuel. New customers can place a $5 bet, and you'll get started with $150 in bonus bets. If you win your first $5 bet, visit FanDuel.com to get started. All right. First of all, John.
You know, I'm ready to talk Texans defense. My man Luther Vandross made a song, Never Too Much, Never Too Much. And the defense, I think, was exactly too much for the Miami Dolphins to handle. And I got to apologize, Sarge. You know, the last time we really talked on this show, I said, listen, man, I don't know if the Texans defense would be able to handle both the Z's and Jalen Petrie injury with him being out. And I said I thought that was a straw that was going to break the camel's back. But
what did your co-host say to you, John?
Basically, I need to learn a little bit, so I need to hold on and wait. And when you see what this Houston Texans was able to do to an offense, a Miami team overall that's won 3 of the last 4, been able to kind of string together some good moments offensively since Tua came back. How many overall interceptions? 4 interceptions, 2 by the rookie, who, by the way, you talk about the defensive
four turnovers.
4 turnovers, excuse me. But you talk about
3 interceptions, 1 fumble.
3 interceptions, 1 fumble. You talk about a defensive rookie that wasn't on any other defensive rookie of the year list, Kalen Bullock, and you see how he came out and played. Derek Stingley played phenomenal. But I thought the Houston Texans defense did a very good job of just staying disciplined and taking away Miami's run game early in the game. It seemed like Miami was trying to force the Houston Texans to go man-to-man coverage on them, to give them that leverage offensively that they can typically beat other teams' opposing defenses with. And Houston just was where they needed to be, when they needed to be, and you got the pressure up front. And you were able to create those turnovers, which I think forced Miami's offense to kind of get a little bit discombobulated. Overall, defensively, the Houston Texans showed up. And, all pro Stingley.
For sure. Hey, John, the one thing that we talked about on last week leading up to this game against the Miami Dolphins, and I even talked about it on the crossover show, Locked On Dolphins with Kyle Krabs. The one thing that the Houston Texans needed to do was have great eye discipline on defense. Don't get themselves caught up in all that pre-snap motion, but to play under control and don't get confused by the pre-snap motion. But one of the main things that I said on this show, you have to contain A-Chain. And if you contain A-Chain, then he is the key to slowing that entire offense down. Because what he likes to do is he likes to get going in the run game. As good as he is, as far as a receiver, being a receiver out of the backfield, and how he helps them in that passing game that they have, especially when they like to run all these different screens. But he has to get going in the run game. And if he gets going in the run game, then that opens up everything else. What the Houston Texans defense did today was they played basic, boring football, which was amazing. What they did on Sunday was amazing by playing that boring football, by keeping everything in front of them and containing the run game. Not letting A-Chain get out, not letting Tua get super comfortable in the pocket. Even when they were just bringing 4, just sending 4, that pocket, he had time, but with the amount of players that the Texans had in coverage, that pressure, you can't contain Will Anderson, Danielle Hunter, Foley Fatukasi before he got hurt, Tim Settle Jr., Danico Autry, like Mario Edwards, you can't contain them for a very long time. You can hold them up for a second, but they're coming. And they also were able to generate a lot of penalties as far as holding is concerned because they were trying to get back there to Tua. And the one thing that you can do to Dolphins quarterback Tua Tagovailoa is you can speed him up. And if you speed him up, that's when you see the whole, because he was completing, I think he had 7 straight games, 7 straight games combined with the ones that he had before he went out to injury, the 7 straight games with over 70% completion percentage. And what the Houston Texans defense did to him on Sunday was say, no, we're not going to allow you to do that. We're not going to allow you to get super comfortable. And when you have an all-pro, hold on, I'm moving closer so everybody can hear me. Come closer.
Get clear with it.
To whatever apparatus.
Clear.
Right, whatever apparatus you listen to me on, and if you're watching us on the YouTube channel, get closer. Derek Stingley, something that John and I have said for the last couple of weeks, is an all-pro cornerback, and he proved that on Sunday. John, Derek Stingley told me when we were in Ohio, I think it was in Ohio when they, right, this was during the preseason, right before, right after the Hall of Fame game, but they were heading to play Pittsburgh in their second preseason game. And that's when they went to that high school and practice. What he said was, I asked him, hey, how are you able to make so many plays on the ball? And he said, Sarge, I have an internal clock. He says, when I'm running or when I'm watching the wide receiver, I'm saying to myself, the ball should be out by now. The ball should be out by now. So I don't have to keep looking at the quarterback to see, looking at the quarterback, looking at the receiver. The internal clock in my head says either he has gotten rid of the ball, he has gotten sacked, something else has happened, but the ball should be out by now. And as he's playing his receiver, now he's looking back for the ball. And the way that he was able to play Tyreek Hill, and even on the touchdown that he was beat on, John, he was on that fourth down play. On that touchdown, he got beat on by tight end Jonnu Smith. He didn't really get beat. He got, how can I say this? Jonnu Smith is just taller than Derek Stingley. Tua just put the ball up high, and Jonnu Smith went and grabbed it. But if anybody wanted to nitpick anything, that would be it. But John, the way that he played the ball on those 2 interceptions, and especially the one to end the game, to seal the game for the Texans, amazing.
I think the defense altogether did, we can highlight Derek Stingley, rightfully so, but 3 sacks on Tua Tagovailoa, right? Will Anderson with a sack fumble, Danielle Hunter getting in with a sack and a half, right? But you look at some of those sacks, and we talked about how Miami was trying early on to win that chess game, against the Houston offense, where they were trying to force them to play a little bit more, the Houston defense, to play a little bit more man coverage. The pressure was there, but the backside coverage was amazing for the Houston Texans. I mean, halfway through the third quarter, Tyreek Hill did not have a catch. Jalen Waddle, who did go out due to injury, but he only caught 2 catches. Well, he only had 2 targets, 0 catches, no yards. Jonnu Smith, who has been hot for the Miami Dolphins the last couple of weeks, 11 targets, 9 catches. And look at how many of those catches came in the fourth quarter. So he had a quiet day. Overall, you saw this Texans secondary be quick to their spots, play discipline, take away a lot of those quick passing game opportunities for the Miami Dolphins. And then that Texans defensive line, that's where they got real hungry and took advantage. The Miami Dolphins saw a lot of 3rd and long against the Houston Texans. And when you see those 3rd and longs and forcing that team back like that, a team that the Houston Texans is already knocking off that rhythm, they're not able to get going. Now you see a hungry secondary. Now you're seeing those 3 interceptions. Now you see Kalen Bullock all over the field. And now you see your defensive ends who was going up against a team missing their top 2 tackles. Now you see them have major days. But on the other side of the break, we got to talk about the offense that I think had some good moments, had some bad moments. Overall, maybe the more gutsier call for the year happened on a fake punt, which led to the Houston Texans offense scoring 7. Today's show was sponsored by BetterHelp. It's the most wonderful time of the year, the holiday time, where we get an opportunity to just chill a little bit, maybe chill with some family, and go through our holiday traditions. What is it for you? Do you like to sit and watch Home Alone, 1 or 2, warm up some hot chocolate, or do you like to just stay kind of cozy, throw a big old blanket on, and watch some good football? Whatever it is for you, therapy, that's your therapy. Relaxing, getting away, breaking away from your everyday routine. That's your therapy. And therapy can also be a great way to bring yourself some comfort that never goes away, even when the season changes. I'm a big advocate of therapy. I believe therapy can help you release some things, and we all need a release, especially in today's society. If you're thinking of starting therapy, give BetterHelp a try. It's entirely online, designed to be convenient, flexible, and suitable to your schedule. Just fill out a brief questionnaire to get matched with a licensed therapist and switch therapists anytime for no additional charge. Find comfort this December with BetterHelp. Visit BetterHelp.com/lockedon today to get 10% off your first month. That's BetterHelp, HELP.com/lockedon to get started today. Also, Texans fans, football fans in general, it's that time of year. The college football playoff is back, and with newly expanded 12-team format, it's guaranteed to be bigger and better than ever, bringing all the hard-hitting and high-flying excitement that you love to your screen. TNT Sports coverage of the college football playoffs begins December 21st, starting with the college football kickoff show presented by AT&T at 11 a.m. Eastern, leading up to the first matchup of the day, SMU battling Penn State at noon. Then you got Clemson taking on the UT Longhorns in a showdown starting at 4 p.m. Eastern. Don't miss a moment of the action. Watch college football playoffs presented by Allstate live on TNT, True TV, TBS, and Max.
Battle Red Nation, welcome back to the Locked On Texas podcast. John Flores, many positive things that we had to say about the Houston Texans defense in the first segment. I don't know. It was positive. It was positive, John. We could talk about there was some positives for the Houston Texans offense, but there was some points, John, where you're saying to yourself, here we go again. How did you feel about that Houston Texans offense on Sunday?
Well, Sarge, one thing we've talked about for a good part of this season was just the progression of C.J. Stroud and wanting to see him take what the defense gave him. And I thought that's where we saw more growth from him in his game. The leading receiver for the Houston Texans Sunday was Joe Mixon. A lot of those just dumping the ball off. He had 5 catches for 33 yards. Nothing major. That's not necessarily eye-popping numbers, but you look at CJ just saying, okay, right now the pressure may be getting to me, or they're taking away the shots downfield that I want. I'm going to dump it off right here. I'm going to live to see another play. So that was good to see. Again, the gutsy call for the Houston Texans to go for it on the fake punt, which picked up 35 yards. Darray picked up 35 yards. Shout out to Darray. And then you see CJ go and score with a touchdown to Nico Collins, who didn't have a big day in terms of yards, but he had 2 TDs. Same drive, we saw CJ take a major hit and still be able to sling the rock to Tank Dell. And so moments like that, okay, that's good moments. Those are good moments that you can go back and watch film and say, look at what we could do. But the Houston Texans really did struggle with being able to run the ball Sunday against the Miami Dolphins. New offensive line, Blake Fisher, he's starting at right tackle. They moved over Titus Howard to left guard. Titus didn't necessarily, from what I was told, didn't necessarily like the move, understood the move, wasn't necessarily going to put up a fight. So this is the second offensive line we've seen in the last 2 games for the Houston Texans in terms of who they have out there, not being able to really run the ball well. That's probably the bad part about it. Offense struggled a lot throughout the game, and you look and say, wow, well, Joe Mixon isn't able to get it going on the ground.
Yeah, I would say this, that I kind of figured that going into Sunday's game that there was going to be some aspect, some part was going to have to struggle. It was either going to be the protection or it was going to be the run game, but one had to suffer, and it's only because you look at the amount of shuffles that this offensive line has had to make, and most of the time it just came from the interior part. But now, now you're messing with the edge as well.
Your base of the offensive line. Good point.
Exactly. And so now that you're going to move Titus to left guard, which, by the way, one of the things that Laramie Tunsil told me was having Titus there. I know that Titus can play the position. That may not be the position that he's the best at because he's a tackle. He says a natural tackle, but he can play guard because Titus is an athlete. And we've seen Titus be moved, all up and down that line except for the center position. But I was really impressed. By the way that Blake Fisher played. Of course, he was going to get beat sometimes. He's a rookie. But I think that what we seen, John, was all of that fire that he was put into during training camp, going up against Will and going up against Daniil and then going up against Danico. He was going up against some of the best defensive ends in the league, and he was getting beat. He was getting beat bad. But one thing that he did was he learned, and he kept learning, and he kept learning. So on Sunday, he wasn't bad. I think that the protection was very, very good. I think that
all
the protection,
things considered, I agree.
Yeah, was very good. I think CJ could have gotten the ball out of his hands, a little bit quicker. But looking at what he has had to endure, not knowing what's going to happen, because the fear of the unknown, John, is what keeps a lot of us from being successful. You don't know what you're getting. CJ has never had to play with Titus on his left side at the left guard position, and so he doesn't know what he's going to get from there. Also, you got a rookie, right tackle. So I think that the fear of the unknown, CJ probably was shocked that he had a lot of time. There was a lot of plays he had a lot of time to throw the ball, and I think that he missed some of
that's where
I want
to dive into.
Yeah. Go right ahead. I was just gonna say I think that he missed some of those open wide receivers, but the run game suffered, but the protection was better.
And when you look at how the Houston Texans first came out, right? Every team was going to game plan for Joe Mixon. Their first play was a play action pass.
Yeah.
And you saw
it was aggressive on that first drive.
Very aggressive on that first drive. That's a part of the down part of the day for the Houston Texans. Again, settling for 3. You wanted to see that drive end in 7, but their very first drive, it was set up by an aggressive play call because teams, Miami, got to respect Joe Mixon. Throughout the game, that respect, I think, because the front four was able to disrupt the offensive line so much in terms of being able to run block Miami's defensive line, that respect kind of went away a little bit. Houston still did a good job of getting Joe Mixon involved in the pass game, but my takeaway from C.J. Stroud is I just think he's really beat up right now. The season has taken a toll on him. 4 sacks, I don't necessarily think all of those 4 sacks should be accounted to an offensive lineman.
Yeah.
For what I saw, at least I want to say maybe 2 of those sacks, you can put the blame on CJ for not getting the ball out quicker or maybe move around in the pocket better. For sure, one, I know that there's one where the pressure came right up the middle, and it's like, okay, what's Howard doing? What's Patterson doing? What's Dare doing? I saw you tweet about that.
Dare missed that inside stunt.
He missed that inside pickup. I also thought Patterson could have did a better job in terms of being able to keep his head on the swivel and help out on the strong side when they sent their blitz. But for CJ, the anticipation on a lot of those throws are just not there right now. And the velocity on some of those throws are just aren't there right now. And the decision-making before the ball is coming out, he's processing things very fast right now. And I think because of those hits, as fast as he's been processing, going back to Sunday at least, the processing has taken away his anticipation because I think he's anticipating the hits now compared to anticipating hitting the throw. And so that's a part of the down day. Good touchdown to Nico in the back of the end zone. Another good one on the red zone. But the one in the back of the end zone, I thought to myself, and Sarge, you can stop me if I'm wrong. I said, hey, man, we would have seen CJ thread that needle in the pass and hit Darray. That would have been a walk-in TD. I'm not complaining because I had a parlay on it or anything like that. But it just seems like that pressure has got to him, and it's starting to worry me a little bit. And that's my takeaway. Okay, how much is CJ having to overthink now? And how much is that hurting his game because of the amount of hits that he's taken throughout the year?
It's so funny, John, because I got a chance to speak with CJ after the game on Sunday about that particular play. Because I know that the way that I looked at it, I looked at it as, yes, Darray may have been open, but you go with who you trust. Nico is someone that you trust.
Can't be mad at that.
Nico is someone that you trust. Nico is someone that CJ trusts. That's his safety blanket. And anytime he feels like he can get him the ball, he's a big target with a big catch radius. And so I felt like that he went to him. What CJ told me was, he said, Sarge, when I got out, I could not see. He said, I wanted to go to Darray because I knew where he was supposed to be. He said, I also kept seeing a Miami Dolphins defender right there, and I did not want to throw blindly into Darray, knowing that whichever defender was right there could have easily picked it off. He said, so what I did was I waited, and as I waited, that's when Nico flashed open, and when I seen Nico flashed open, I could see him, and so I wanted to make sure that I got him the ball. I wanted to make sure I got the ball out of my hands and try to get it to him. And he said, of course, it's because I do trust Nico. He said, but I don't want that to take away from the fact that I don't want that to that statement to say I don't trust Darray, because I do trust Darray. I just know that was a more riskier pass for me to try to put the ball right there, knowing that there was defenders around Darray that I still couldn't see all the way. So I just threw it to Nico, and it worked out.
Another bad thing from Sunday's matchup, they score on the first drive, 9 plays, 70 yards in the second half. Okay? Punt, end of game. The Houston Texans offense got to find a way to consistently put up 7. Those 3 points are not going to help you in the long run. But overall, I think it's good that we highlighted the job from rookie right tackle Blake Fisher. And I thought the Houston Texans offensive line did a better job protecting C.J. Stroud. And with the lack of running game, this offense pulled it out.
Yeah.
And that's something that we haven't saw too much from the Houston Texans offense consistently this year. So good and bad, but the up and down day from the Houston Texans offense, but there is a lot of more good that we should highlight. Some bad takeaways maybe, but more good than bad to close out today's show. Make your football season even more exciting with FanDuel, America's #1 sportsbook. Right now, new customers can bet $5 and then get $150 in bonus bets if you win. So Texan fans, go out there and check out all of the props, the parlays, the over-unders to make this season even more exciting. Texas on a 2-game roll right now, 2 games back-to-back, and you could possibly be 2 bets back-to-back, win you some extra cash, and make this holiday season even more exciting. Or just give yourself that cushion with maybe winning some money with FanDuel. FanDuel Sportsbook app gives you everything you need to place live bets all on NFL all in one place. So when you get a hunch in the middle of the game, you can check out the latest stats, view live play-by-play, and so much more on the same page where you place your bets. Just visit FanDuel.com today to join. You'll get started with $150 in bonus bets if you win your first $5 bet. That's $150 in your pocket. All you have to do is win your first $5 bet. That's FanDuel.com. Never waste a hunch and make every moment more with FanDuel, the official sportsbook partner of the NFL. Thank you for making the Locked On Texans your first listen today. Now for your second listen, go find the new Locked On NFL Now with 2 shows every day. First, the Madman, Tyler Rowland, kicks off your morning with a double shot of NFL Espresso, and then stop by the barbershop with Tony Wiggins for some real NFL talk. Find Locked On NFL on YouTube or wherever you listen to your podcast. Welcome back, Locked On Texans listening viewers. You guys don't understand how excited I am to be back to talk Texas with you guys after taking a few days away. Sarge, you know what's one of my bigger takeaways, the good takeaways, and it's just not necessarily from Sunday's matchup, but Sunday benefited from it. The Houston Texans have scored at least 90 points off takeaways this year. They are one of the better takeaway teams. I think it's 93, actually, 93 points off takeaways. They're one of the better takeaway teams in the NFL. You highlighted that about a week or so ago, just how good they are in terms of being able to take away the ball from opposing offenses. That has allowed this team to stay in the game a lot of times. And with those takeaways, even with a bad offense, an inconsistent offense, at least 90 points, almost a century of points have been scored from takeaways. You talk about a stingy team, a stingy Stingley. Yeah, you benefit from those DBs. You benefit from the pressure up front. You benefit from having DeMeco Ryans as your defensive head coach.
John, it's that swarm mentality that DeMeco has been preaching since day one, since he stepped foot into NRG and had his first meeting with the entire team, because swarm mentality just isn't for the defensive side of the ball, it's for the whole team. But that defensive side of the ball takes into account that every player should be near the ball on every play, no matter what. And I think that on Sunday, you've seen a lot of that with the short screens that Miami wanted to run. Their screen game wasn't really as effective as it had been in the past against other teams, because you have a bunch of players on that defensive side of the ball that gets to the ball. Now, John, I'm going to say this, and, I think I had what they call a thug tear, John, the one where you just have the one tear going down your eye, coming out your eye, going down your cheek. John, I shed a thug tear for Christian Harris on Sunday.
Yeah, he balled out. He balled out.
John, it was so good to just see him back on the field. So good to see him have that swarm mentality, that drive to get to the ball. I mean, Henry To'o said last week, it's week 15 for us, but it's week 1 for him. And
so he coming in hot.
Yeah, he coming in hot. He's refreshed. He has a great mindset. He's eager to show his teammates that he wish he could have been on the field earlier in the season. But John, I shed that thug tear for Christian Harris. That's one of the good. Another good for me, special teams play. Well, let me say this, because Frank Ross, I can't wait to talk to him this week when the coordinators talk, because he's definitely going to talk about that fake punt. I didn't think that DeMeco Ryans and Frank Ross had it in them. I
did not think either, man. I was extremely shocked when they pulled it off. More so because we've been asking for this team to be aggressive on fourth downs.
Take chances.
You need the points all year. And when they lined up, they took the offense. I think it was 4th and 2. They ran a wheel route to Joe Mixon, I believe. Was that the same play?
Yep.
Before that, and I was thinking to myself, they didn't get it. Good down to go for it. They pulled him off, and I said, well, let me go to the restroom real quick, because they gonna punt it.
Yeah.
And then all of a sudden I hear, So I run back and I see the play, and I'm thinking to myself, okay, that's how you win a game. Same drive.
That's how you play December football.
That's how you play December football. That same drive Nico Collins scores on, that's how you get your rhythm going. You got to take chances.
And John, another thing that happened on special teams Sunday, I like Tank Dell as a punt returner.
Absolutely.
I like Tank Dell as a punt returner, and I don't know how much they're going to continue to use him, but it seems like he is about to break one every time he touches the ball. And that's nothing against Robert Woods, because earlier this year, was it against the Bills that Robert Woods made that great return in order to get them into range to kick the game-winning field goal? I am just Tank does something totally different when he's back there. You just see his vision and the way that he's able to move. And like I don't know. Like I said, I don't know how much they're going to keep him, but I like that. Now, the bad that I have, and I got to go back to the offense. I just don't like that the Texans don't run an up-tempo offense sometimes.
Yeah.
They need they need to
doing
practice.
It on that first drive.
Right. They need to practice up-tempo. And I've said this before on the show, John. I'll say it again. Man, just let CJ call some of his own plays. He's earned it. He's earned it. And if you let him call some of his own plays, John, maybe he's going to call the plays where he feels more comfortable, where he knows he's going to get the protection.
You know, a quarterback and knowing the down and knowing where to get to is something that I watched for 20 years in the quarterback and Tom Brady.
Yes.
And he knew the play to get to the down to keep the drive going. And that's something CJ Stroud mentioned way earlier in the year. I think this is like week 2 or week 3 or something like that. Just called it out by name. The Patriots ran the up-tempo offense. We saw how dominant they were for years. So I would 100% agree with you there. The bad for me is just another step back for Shaq Mason. If there's no way around it, in my opinion, that's a position that Houston absolutely needs to upgrade next year. Can't do much about it right now, but Shaq Mason is just having a rough season. One of the good things that we didn't highlight coming into this game, Miami has scored, starting with the Rams, 23, 34, 34, 17 in a loss, 32 in a win, and Houston held them to 12 points.
Yeah.
Tua has been one of the more accurate. It could have been 9. It could have been 9, but Houston is one. I mean, Miami is one of the more. Tua has been, one of the more accurate quarterbacks, and he had a rough day against the Houston Texans.
John, one of my bads, real quick too, is I think the Texans had too many penalties, too many costly penalties at the wrong time.
I think it was 8 penalties on the day, but overall, this is one of those games where coming off of a bye week, making some shuffles, making some changes, defense, without Aziz, no Petrie. It was announced he was going to be out for the season. How they responded is exactly how you want to see this team respond.
Yeah.
So we got more Texans talk throughout the week. Big Sarge, man, thank you for holding it down for me while I was gone.
You already
know. This may be an exciting week. This may be a fun week. Make sure you follow us on Twitter at Locked On Texans. Give me a follow as well at John_Hickman12. And also subscribe, like, and comment to the Locked On Texans podcast on YouTube.
And you can find me on the app formerly known as Twitter at Big Star Sports with a Z at the end.
Until next time, ladies and gentlemen, peace.